4.3.1 is here. Star Citizen has a new update for September, and it is expanding underground facilities, but it's also, I think, pointing towards some more stuff that you might enjoy, specifically around underground facilities, but ultimately just where they're headed with the game. We're going to focus on the underground facility part, but we're going to get back to that. First, I just want to show you 431 and what they're talking about here. Basically, we've been following this storyline for the last few months now, like 4 or 5 months. And it focuses on this Dr. Yorit and his ASD company that's been experimenting with a lot of stuff, honestly, that comes off pretty abusive to living beings, but, you know, it makes for a fun backdrop. They say tortured creatures abandoned in an underground prison, ASD workers and scavengers being eaten alive, but the biggest threat of all, an unstable power core ready to blow and take the evidence of Yorit's sick experiments with it. Ah, yeah, hella sick. You've been through hell. But it doesn't stop there. Site B is open, and more biological samples must be retrieved so we can comprehend what madness was concealed in this pit of depravity. It's your duty to uncover Yorit's deepest hidden secrets and put an end to this stain on humanity. Stain, brother. Literal blood smear on humanity. Okay. The extra stuff that they are talking about with these facilities, I think this has been around for a while, August 16th. But it just got updated for 431. Let me see if there's anything actually new here. For the most part, this is just like an introduction to tell you to figure these things out, as the first comment is complaining. Honestly, I don't know what people want. Like, they should not be revealing all of this stuff right here on this page, because honestly, inadvertently, that leads to us ruining that stuff for ourselves more. I like some basic info, but I as much as I would want to get all the juicy bits of detail here, I know that if it was there, I would read it out to you guys, because I want to, right? We want to make some exciting discussion, but that kind of takes away some of the surprise. So I appreciate that they hold some stuff back. But really, all they seem to have added here was explore the darkest revelations in the labs, conduct a biomechanical experiment to retrieve more biological samples related to this work. Players will need to retrieve data from the research labs and engineering to perform that experiment in Site B. Now, to get to my theory. Let me take you back to a video we've watched far too many times this year because there are a lot of worries, probably mostly from myself. I think most people don't care that much about this, that some of the locations they gave us back in the day, or at least showed us throughout the last several years, were just kind of not happening and had been swallowed up by other initiatives. So one of those things was underground facilities. When they were announced, they looked like this. This looks very familiar to a lot of you, I'm sure. This is what became distribution centers, something that also has taken a little bit of a backseat in development. But one of the things that you'll see in these distribution centers, or underground facilities that they were calling them back then, was multiple levels. Take you to another video where they show us, oh, not this one. Another video where they, which one is it? Yeah, it's this one. So here is the first introduction to these. It's all in gray box, and as you can see, like I said, looks very similar to distribution centers.
Land on landing pads.
These locations, I think, took 2 branching development pipelines. I think that the top section, which they introduced with underground facilities as being like the first part. I don't know if they label it anywhere here. I want to say this is the video where they label the locations. Excuse me. They like label the sections and tell us. So this is like the top first section. It's the ground location, right? This is distribution centers. If you watch this video, this is basically the path that they're going on. It's just taking a long freaking time.
So if we go from the top, this is where you trundle down into the UGF on a lovely diagonal elevator.
All right. Listen to what he said right there again.
We've also got our physical elevator spaces. So if we go from the top, this is where you trundle down into the UGF on a lovely diagonal elevator.
Now, that is not the only part of UGFs that we haven't seen yet. If you wanted to go through this whole spreadsheet, you could see all the different values and stuff that they've been working on. But I'm just going to take you forward now to the other video where we do more of the details. He goes inside of the
UGF,
distribution center.
and your rep is...
He still calls it a UGF.
So this, when you first turn up to the UGF, and your rep...
Which leads me to believe that they're not actually different locations. They're just semantics and stuff. But we know all this stuff. This is the lobbies, right? You go down the next layer, and suddenly you are underground in this new location. We also know this area. This is where some of our missions take place if it actually works. But there's a whole bunch more of this location than what we have in game currently. Look at how many different locations and rooms he's walking through until he eventually gets to this elevator here. This elevator, this is the pedestrian elevator, but
So away we go.
it goes down that diagonal path that he talked
the
about
depth
earlier in the video.
of the, the first sub-level is going to change in every UGF. No, that's going to be procedurally generated, a lot like the rooms as well. Oh, and the elevator's just kind of moving back up. Now you could take the cargo elevator down, that's fine, but that's
So
gonna
there's the
be
cargo
fully
elevator, that's the
automated,
big boy.
whereas these pedestrian
That comes
elevators are
down.
going to be
Yes. But
So
then, like, look at all the space down here,
this is
man.
a hatch, so maybe
Tunnels.
you're sneaking your way under
Little
the
hatches,
what's rock, what's
new rooms.
An
Gets
example.
like kind of Half-Life
Example.
vibes.
this.
But all this stuff was presented to us in 2023,
We're gonna have to
March.
wait for
So we ended up getting distribution centers just like a month later, but they didn't have any of that underground stuff. And up until this year, it was kind of like, okay, where are the underground facilities you guys talked about? You can even go into the 1.0 features. And in the location center, they talk about utility tunnels, which are supposed to be part of building interiors for some reason. Building interiors are there as well. But there's nothing here about underground facilities. So when we started to get the Onyx facilities, I was like, this is great. They're getting back into the underground. It's actually working. They're making use of it. But I still wasn't really sure how far they would go. And then I went and I watched this trailer.
Hey, it's me. I'm grounded on Pyro 4.
And I'm sure some of you have seen this already in-game and can probably confirm this is true. But check this out. Look at what pops up in this trailer. I have YouTube alerts on. Did I miss something?
Where are you?
Recognize this room? This that top area with the elevator, right? And then just a brief second, you can see that they've got this elevator actually going down the track that they talked about all the way back in 2023 to an actual lower location in the underground. That's it. That's it. It's a very, very brief amount of footage, and it doesn't necessarily tell us everything, or it's not like, this doesn't mean that the entirety of all those underground facilities are back. But I think this does show that the stuff that they were showing us back here that was easy to kind of be like, hey, this is, feels like y'all just left this behind. Is this actually going to happen? It's still in their design thoughts. Yeah, not another 6 years. It's the whole point of this is that I do think that there's still, like, this stuff still exists. It might not come into the game in the way that it was presented here, since this was all kind of a design presentation. But these things have not disappeared. And I would say that's not necessary. See, this is the exact same room. Basically, it's a little more dark and abandoned, but you know, you got the elevator here, you got the entrance here. Not all hope is lost for these kinds of things. Sometimes they talk about stuff and it's premature. They just don't do it right. Something else pops up. They need to pivot, whatever it might be. Sometimes this stuff disappears. And so it's hard to know whether or not things are actually canceled or not happening, or if they are happening. But I would just keep it in mind that, like, they might still be heading in a direction where underground facilities and, more importantly, distribution centers are being considered a very important and key part of game places. These could all be very easily instanced locations whenever they get that tech working. These are crazy good opportunities and excuses to have closed off, instanced PvE areas for people to go in and have a set group of folks that can run through all of it without knowing other people are showing up. So I think this is just good information for those who are still hoping for that kind of gameplay and looking forward to it. And from what I'm hearing, the stuff that occurs down in the Onyx facilities has been pretty encouraging to people. Even, I'm not going to name names, but there are a couple people that do a little bit more digging, we'll say, into what's going on in CIG that were not super sure about the approach last year, towards the end of last year, that are now starting to see these things show up and saying like, okay, maybe they're doing something on a better track than it seemed at that point. So yeah, that's my diatribe, my rant about the possibility of underground facilities going further. I've also seen it possibly a little bit leaked that there might be some other details about underground facilities. I won't really talk about that here. I'm sure that'll make it into the general news scene over the next few weeks or maybe a month. But that's about what I had on the underground, on 4.3.1, on the direction it's going. Development updates. We're going to get into this hopefully on Friday and actually see the new update ourselves. But it sounds like it's pretty fun.